What do you mean? You canceled the reservation. I gripped my phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. I stepped out of the quiet, climate-controlled hum of the art gallery into the noisy, humid Boston street, the horn of a taxi making me wince. The engagement party is this Saturday. We sent the invitations out 3 weeks ago. People are flying in. The Arista Club was simply too extravagant. Clara. My mother's voice came through the line, laced with that practiced, placid calm she always used right before delivering a verdict. It was the same tone she used to tell me my choice of art school was unconventional and my first apartment was unbecoming. Your father and I discussed it, she continued, and we just can't justify that kind of expenditure for an engagement party. We'll find a nice restaurant. Something more appropriate. Appropriate. The word hung in the air, weighted with everything she wasn't saying. I could feel my face flush with a hot, sudden anger. Appropriate, Mom. I've dreamed of having my celebration at the Arista Club since I was 16. We celebrated your 50th there. You knew what it meant to me. Dreams have to align with reality. Dear, she said, her tone infuriatingly gentle. And frankly, the guest list was becoming complicated. I've already looked into some charming private rooms at a few bistros. And besides, with Leo's background, perhaps it's better to start your new life on a more modest note. There it was, the real reason, delivered like a polite, poisoned dart. It wasn't about the money. It was about Leo. I ended the call. I'll call you later. A clipped, brittle thing. The decision was already made. My name is Clara Monroe. I'm 29. And I am the quiet, chronic disappointment of the Monroe family. Growing up in Boston's Beacon Hill, in a world of inherited wealth and ironclad social rules, meant understanding that appearances were everything. My father, Edward Monroe, ran Monroe Holdings, a commercial real estate empire built by his great-grandfather. Our name was etched onto buildings. Onto museum, donor plaques. Onto the silent, heavy expectations that governed every choice. My mother, Catherine, chaired the city's most prestigious charitable boards. Her life, a carefully curated performance of class and influence. I was the black sheep. I didn't want to join the family business. My father had offered me a corner office and a liaison role, which I knew meant marry another developer's son. I didn't want to marry into another dynasty. I went to art school, a waste of a legacy. According to my father, and now I work as a curator at a small but respected contemporary gallery. I love my work. I love the smell of old canvas and new ideas. But to my parents, it's a hobby, a quaint, unprofitable diversion from my real duty. My younger sister, Sophia, was the opposite. She was the golden child, the one who understood the assignment. She went to Harvard Law, joined the right clubs, and was already an associate at the family's law firm, destined to protect the Monroe fortune. She was polished, predictable, and perfectly aligned with their values. She dated the right men, sons of bankers and surgeons, and never questioned the path laid out for her. Then I met Leo Vance. I met him not at a gala or a fundraiser, but at a dusty, crowded antiquarian book fair. I was looking for a rare monograph on Rothko. He was looking for a first-edition textbook on neural programming. We struck up a conversation in the stacks, and I was immediately disarmed. He was brilliant, funny, and refreshingly, beautifully normal. He was a software developer, raised in a working-class neighborhood by a single mother who was a teacher. He was kind. He was respectful. And he saw me. Clara. Not a Monroe. When I brought him home for the obligatory dinner, the chill was immediate. It was a performance of polite, icy interrogation. My father asked him a series of pointed, aggressive questions about his prospects. Software, my father had said, swirling his brandy. Is there an exit strategy? Equity. What's your 5-year plan? I'm more focused on the code right now. Seer. Leo had answered politely. I'm trying to solve a problem with predictive AI modeling. How? Novel. My father replied, his eyes already drifting away. My mother barely hid her disdain when Leo mentioned he still drove a 15-year-old Subaru because, as he put it runs perfectly, and the parts are cheap. Well, he seems earnest, my mother had said later that night, as if earnest were a communicable disease. I had chosen to believe they just needed time. I thought they would see the man I saw, that they would value his brilliant mind and generous heart. I thought family mattered more than money. His proposal, 6 months later. It was simple and perfect, a ring he'd designed himself. Presented on a quiet Tuesday night. My parents' congratulations were lukewarm. Their suggestion of a long engagement, a clear sign they hoped I'd come to my senses. All I had wanted was one day, one perfect event where my two worlds, my past and my future, could merge, where I could celebrate the man I loved in a place I had always dreamed of. And now, my parents had snatched it away. Not with a bang, but with a polite, dismissive phone call. I was still standing on the sidewalk, the anger warring with a deep, familiar ache of disappointment, when my phone buzzed again. A text from my sister. Sophia. I braced myself for fake sympathy. Mom just told me about the Arista Club. Sorry. Clara. That really sucks. I started to type a thank you. But another message popped up. But silver lining, Dad's upgrading my 25th birthday party to make up for the family embarrassment. We're moving it to the Arista Club. He just finalized it. Isn't that amazing? I read the text. And then I read it again. And a third time. The words blurring through a sudden, hot film of tears. The blood drained from my face, leaving my skin cold and clammy. It wasn't about the money. It was never about the money. They hadn't canceled my reservation because it was too extravagant. They had canceled my reservation to give it to my sister. They had taken my dream, my one day, my one request, and handed it to their perfect daughter. As a reward for my failure, the text said it all to make up for the family embarrassment. I was the embarrassment. My love for a good, brilliant man who didn't come from money was the embarrassment. The cruelty of it, the casual, calculated betrayal, took my breath away. This wasn't just a slight, it was an erasure. They weren't just dismissing my fiancé, they were dismissing me. 3 days later, I was still avoiding their calls, stewing in a mixture of profound hurt and cold anger. I told Leo what had happened, and he was quiet for a long time, his expression more sad than angry. I'm sorry they hurt you. Clara, he said softly, which only made me cry harder. I channeled my frustration into my work, finalizing the details for a new exhibit, but the betrayal sat like a stone in my stomach. Finally, on Friday, I couldn't stand it anymore. I had to see their faces. I had to make them say it again. This time, without the polite veneer of a phone call. I left the gallery early and drove to their Beacon Hill townhouse. I let myself in with my old key. The house was silent, but I could hear my mother's light laughter coming from the formal sunroom. I walked down the marble hallway and stopped in the doorway. My mother, my father, and my sister Sophia were gathered around the antique mahogany table. It was covered with swatches of fabric, floral arrangement samples, and catering menus. My mother was gesturing animatedly. The Arista Club has such wonderful afternoon light. She was saying, and if we position the string quartet here, by the windows. What is this? My voice cut through the cheerful planning like a shard of glass. 5 heads turned my parents, Sophia, and 2 women I recognized as my mother's preferred party planner and florist. My mother recovered first, her society smile snapping into place. though her eyes were cold. Clara, we didn't know you were coming by. We're just finalizing some details for Sophia's birthday celebration. At the Arista Club, I stated. It wasn't a question. An uncomfortable silence fell. The florist suddenly became fascinated by her shoes. Sophia, at least, had the decency to look embarrassed. I told Mom it was too soon. Clara, she mumbled. But she insisted the venue was perfect and available. Available because you canceled my reservation, I said, my voice eerily calm, though a storm was raging inside me. My father, Edward, stood up, straightening his cashmere sweater. Clara, let's discuss this privately. Why I challenged him. Stepping further into the room, everyone here already knows. You canceled my engagement party, claiming it was too extravagant. And then you booked the exact same venue for Sophia's birthday, which is next week. I'd love to hear the explanation for that. It's not that simple. Dear, my mother began, her smile fixed and brittle. With the guest list we've cultivated for Sophia's event, the Arista Club makes perfect sense. The Hendersons will be there. It's an important evening for your father's business. And my guests weren't important. My celebration wasn't worth it. That's not what your mother is saying. My father interjected. His voice taking on the hard edge I knew meant his patience was gone. Look, Clara, we have been very patient with this phase of yours. The little job at that gallery, the modest apartment. And now, Leo. My name hardened his voice. What does my fiancé have to do with this? My parents exchanged that look. The one I had seen my whole life. The one that said we must now deliver a difficult truth for her own good. He's just not suitable. Clara, my mother finally said, her voice dripping with false sympathy. Not for a Monroe. He's a nice enough young man, I suppose. But he has no ambition. No family connections. No prospects. He has nothing to offer. He has love. I countered, my voice shaking. He has respect. He's the most brilliant person I've ever met. Those are things that actually matter. My father sighed. A sound of profound disappointment. Your fiancé is not good enough for this family. Clara. And deep down, you know it. His eyes were like chips of ice. We are simply trying to save you from making a mistake you will regret for the rest of your life. We are protecting this family's name. The words landed like physical blows. I had suspected their disapproval. But the sheer, cold-blooded cruelty of their admission that they would humiliate me to save me left me breathless. I looked at Sophia, who was staring at her lap. Perfectly silent. A loyal soldier. I walked out without another word. That evening, I sat in my small condo, telling Leo everything. He listened quietly, his expression more sad than angry. When I finished, the tears streaming down my face, he just took my hand. I'm sorry they hurt you, he said, but I'm not surprised by how they feel about me. I thought they'd at least try to get to know you. I wept. I thought family mattered more than their obsession with money. Some people can only see value in things they already understand, he said, giving me a sad smile. Your parents measure worth in dollars and legacy. I don't fit their metrics. His calm, his complete lack of anger on his own behalf, made me more determined. Let's host our own party, I said, the idea forming as I spoke. Here, at the gallery, something small, with just our friends, people who actually love us. We don't need the Arista Club. We don't need them. Leo hesitated. Are you sure? This is your family. Clara, I don't want to be the reason you cut ties. You're not the reason, I said, my voice firm. Their behavior is. Let's do this. Our way. I spent the next 2 days in a blur, channeling my hurt into action. I called the gallery owner, who was thrilled to offer the space. I contacted a local caterer. It was coming together. A real celebration. One that felt like us. Then, on Friday morning, the day before Sophia's party, my phone rang. It was Sophia. Mom's invited Jonathan Henderson to my party, she said, her voice a low, frantic whisper. My stomach sank. Jonathan Henderson was Sophia's ex-boyfriend, the son of a banking tycoon. My parents had adored him. They were devastated when Sophia broke up with him to date Brad, a perfectly nice, normal lawyer they considered beneath her. She's trying to set you up, I said, recognizing the pattern. It's worse than that. Clara, she hissed. Mom and Dad. They're desperate. You know that new seaport development Dad's been working on? It's drowning in debt. Monroe Holdings is in trouble. Real trouble. Dad needs an investment from Henderson's father. This whole party. It's not for my birthday. It's a stage. It's to get Jonathan and me back together to secure the deal. I was speechless. This was a level of manipulation that was staggering. They weren't just shallow, they were desperate. They were willing to sacrifice both of their daughters' happiness to save their company. And get this. Sophia continued. She told Brad the party was cancelled. She just disinvited him, the same way she did to you. For a moment, I thought I'd found an ally. Then come with me. I urged. Skip their party. Bring Brad. Come to my party at the gallery. Stand up to them. The line went quiet. I can't, she finally whispered. Why not? Because Dad's announcing my promotion to junior partner at the party, she said, her voice small. I've worked 3 years for this. Clara, I can't jeopardize my entire career. Not all of us can afford to burn bridges like you can. She hung up. I stared at the phone. The familiar disappointment settling in my chest like ice. My sister, the golden child, was just another asset to be leveraged. And she was letting them do it. I was truly on my own. I found Leo in our living room later that night, staring at the invitations for the gallery party I had just finished canceling. I can't do it, I said, my voice hollow. I can't stand there and pretend to be happy, knowing they're across town at my venue, celebrating my humiliation. They win. Leo stood up and walked over to me, taking my hands. His were warm and steady. Do they? Is this winning? He asked quietly. Or are we letting them win by hiding, by acting ashamed? They'll be horrible to you, I whispered, the fear of that public scrutiny making my stomach churn. They'll make snide comments. They'll treat you like you're invisible. They already think I'm not good enough. Leo shrugged, a small, sad smile playing on his lips. What's the worst that can happen? They ignore me harder, Clara. Running away and hosting our own party. It feels like admitting they're right. Like we should be separated from them. He squeezed my hands. Let's go. Let's show up. Be ourselves. And not let them dictate how we feel or where we're allowed to be. Let's stand our ground. By the time we arrived at the Arista Club the next evening, my anxiety was a living thing. My hands shaking so hard, I could barely hold my clutch. The venue was, of course, stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the glittering Boston skyline. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm, golden glow. The air smelled of expensive perfume and peonies. It was everything I had dreamed of. And walking into it felt like swallowing glass. My mother spotted us first. Her practiced smile faltered. A tiny, almost imperceptible crack, before she composed herself and glided over, champagne flute in hand. Clara, what a surprise. Her eyes flicked to Leo, her distaste barely veiled. And Leo, darling, this is a private family event. We didn't send you an invitation. I know, I said, matching her quiet tone, but injecting steel into my own. You made it very clear where I stand. But Sophia is still my sister. And I'm here to support her. My mother's smile tightened. Of course. How? Mature of you. She leaned in. Her voice a condescending whisper. Just please. Try not to make this evening about your situation. Tonight is for celebrating Sophia. As she swept away to greet a city councilman, Leo squeezed my hand. You okay? I will be. I promised. Though my confidence was evaporating, the evening was a masterclass in polite humiliation. My father barely acknowledged our presence, his focus entirely on the Henderson family, particularly Jonathan, their son. My mother paraded Sophia around, introducing her to investors and politicians. Leo and I were left pointedly alone. An island of social pariahs. Conversations would stop when we approached, then resume as if we weren't there. The lowest point came when one of my father's oldest business partners, a man who had known me since I was a child, walked directly up to Leo. He snapped his fingers. Excuse me. Son, could you get me a scotch? Neat? The air left my lungs. Leo didn't even blink. He just smiled politely. I'm sorry. Seer. I don't work here. The man flushed. Mumbled. Oh, terribly sorry. And hurried away. I felt sick. Leo. Let's go. This was a mistake. Not yet, Leo said, his grip on my hand firm. Your father's about to make his speech. My father stood at the podium, champagne flute raised, beaming at Sophia. We are celebrating tonight, he announced, his voice booming. Not just a birthday, but a remarkable young woman who exemplifies the Monroe values. His eyes swept the crowd, pointedly ignoring me. Sophia has shown dedication to family, professional excellence, and the importance of making the right connections for a successful future. His gaze drifted meaningfully from Sophia to Jonathan Henderson, her ex-boyfriend. In fact, I am proud to announce two things. First, that Sophia is being promoted to junior partner at Monroe Holdings. Applause erupted. Sophia blushed, though she looked uncomfortable as Jonathan winked at her. And second, my father continued, that promotion is perfectly timed, as she will be helping me lead our exciting new joint venture with Henderson Financial Group. More applause, this time louder, mixed with impressed murmurs. I sat frozen. It wasn't just a party. It was a coronation and a business deal, all wrapped in one. My father, desperate to save his failing company, was publicly merging his interests with the Hendersons, using my sister as the bridge. This wasn't about Leo not being good enough. It was about me not being useful enough. As the applause died down, I felt Leo tense beshid me. I followed his gaze. He wasn't looking at my father. He was looking at a man standing near the bar. A man I didn't recognize. The man was staring intently. Not at my father. Not at Sophia. But right at Leo. His expression was a mixture of disbelief and something that looked like awe. Leo, I whispered. Who is that? That, Leo replied, his voice suddenly tight, is Marcus Thorne, the CEO of Auradine, the tech CEO. What's he doing here? Why is he looking at you? We need to leave, Leo said, standing up abruptly. Now. We slipped out as my father was still shaking hands. As the door closed behind us, I caught one last glimpse of Marcus Thorne, the CEO, pulling my father aside, his expression urgent, and gesturing unmistakably in our direction. Are you going to tell me what that was about? I demanded as we drove home. The tension in the car thick enough to cut. Leo was silent for a long moment, his jaw tight. He finally let out a long breath. Remember that project I've been working on for the past 3 years, he said. The one I couldn't really talk about. The algorithm. I said. The one you always just said was coming along. It's done, he said. The development. The testing. I've been in acquisition talks for the past month. My heart started to pound. That's amazing. Leo. But what does that have to do with Marcus Thorne? His company. Auradine, Leo said, glancing at me, is the one buying my software. The deal closes on Monday. Before I could even process the implications, my phone exploded. It lit up the dark car, vibrating violently against the console. 3 missed calls from my father, 2 from my mother, and a new text from Sophia. What the hell did Leo do, Dad? And Marcus Thorne are losing their minds. Call me now. I showed Leo the text. My hand shaking. Care to fill me in on the rest? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. And the tension finally broke. He looked exhausted. Let's go home. When we got back to my small condo, the one my parents despised, Leo didn't turn on the lights. He just opened his laptop. The glow illuminated his face, showing the strain of the last few weeks. I wanted to tell you, Clara, the confidentiality agreements were ironclad. And honestly, I didn't want this thing, to be part of our life until it was real. He turned the screen to me. It was a press release. Embargoed for Monday morning. Auradine acquires Neuralink for $175 million in cash and stock. I stared at the number. 175美元. Ling ling ling. Ling ling ling. I looked at the name. Neuralink. Biopredict. I whispered, remembering the original file name. I renamed it. He said, Neuralink. It's the AI algorithm I've been building for 3 years. The one your father thought was novel. I looked at the number again. Then I looked at Leo. My quiet, unassuming, brilliant Leo, who wore worn-out jeans and drove a 15-year-old Subaru. This number. It wasn't just life-changing. It was world-ending. It was the kind of money my parents understood. It was the only thing they understood. A sudden, cold fear hit me. This was the hesitation I had been dreading. I wasn't just happy. I was terrified. I was terrified this would change him. And even worse, I was terrified that this obscene number would somehow prove my parents right that the only metric for a person's worth really was, in the end, a price tag. You're shaking, Leo said, taking my hands. I never wanted this, I whispered, the confession surprising me. I mean, I'm so proud of you, Leo. But this money, it's what they care about. It feels dirty. He smiled. That same sad, gentle smile from the day my party was canceled. That's why I've been so quiet about it, he said, pulling me close. That's why I drive the Subaru. That's why I wear these clothes. I never wanted this to be the reason anyone valued me. I wanted to be valued for my ideas. I wanted to be valued by you. For me, the money. It's just a byproduct of solving the puzzle. Just then, my phone rang again, loud and shrill in the quiet apartment. My father. He hesitated, then looked at Leo. He nodded. I answered, putting it on speaker. Clara. My father's voice boomed. But the tone was all wrong. It wasn't angry. It was differential. Eager. Clara. 'Tis Leo with you. I'd very much like to speak with him. It's nearly midnight. Dad, I said, my voice cold. I know. But Marcus Thorne He mentioned that Leo's company has developed some extraordinary healthcare technology. I heard him clear his throat. As you know, Monroe Holdings is. We're expanding into the medical office sector. We're very interested in discussing potential collaborations. The audacity was breathtaking. Hours ago, Leo was unsuitable. He was not good enough. Now, sensing a business opportunity, a chance to save his own failing company, he was falling over himself. I looked at Leo. A plan, cold and sharp, formed in my mind. Actually, Dad, I said, my voice sweet as poison, we'd love to discuss this further. How about brunch tomorrow? Say, 11 o'clock, at the Arista Club. The Arista Club, yes, perfect, he said, relief flooding his voice. I'll make the arrangements immediately. Private room. We'll see you then. He hung up. Leo looked at me, his expression full of concern. The Arista Club, Clara. Are you sure? Absolutely, I said, my resolve hardening into something new. If they want to talk to Leo Vance, the founder of Neuralink, they can do it in the very room where they refuse to celebrate Leo Vance. The software developer, they can face exactly who he is, not who they assumed he was. The Arista Club looked different in daylight. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows. The same windows I had imagined as the backdrop for my engagement photos. There were no shadows to hide in. My parents arrived first, dressed in their Sunday best, faces carefully arranged in expressions of warm, welcoming enthusiasm. Sophia was with them, looking curious and deeply embarrassed. Leo and I entered last. He, to my absolute delight, wore the same simple button-down shirt and worn jeans he'd worn the first time he met them. A deliberate. Silent statement. I dressed as I always did, simple. Professional. Curator Clara. Not Monroe heiress. Leo, wonderful to see you again, my father boomed, clasping Leo's hand with a painful heartiness. Marcus Thorne speaks very highly of your work. Very highly indeed. Thank you for arranging this. Leo replied politely, his demeanor unchanged, respectful, but utterly unimpressed. We settled at the table. Mimosas and coffee appeared. My mother kept touching Leo's arm, laughing at things that weren't funny. Leo, you must tell us. How did you keep such an incredible secret? My father launched into a rehearsed speech about exciting synergies and mutual opportunities. The same desperation I'd heard in Sophia's voice now thinly veiled behind his corporate bluster. When he finally paused for breath, I placed a single folder on the table. Before we go further, I said, my voice cutting through the false cheer, I think we should be clear about what we're actually discussing. I opened the folder, turning the press release to face them. Leo isn't just developing technology. He founded Neuralink, which Auradine is acquiring tomorrow, for $175 million. My father's face went pale. My mother's smile froze, her eyes darting from the paper to Leo and back again. Sophia just stared at Leo with wide, disbelieving eyes. I believe, I continued, that Monroe Holdings actually approached Auradine last year about partnering on their new medical campus. And you were declined. Isn't that right? Dad. The silence was deafening. My father's composure, his lifelong shield, slipped. I wasn't aware of the scale of Leo's involvement. He stammered. My mother recovered faster, her voice fluttering with fake concern. Leo, you should have told us. All this time. We thought. You thought what I prompted. My voice soft. That he wasn't good enough. That he was unsuitable. That he drove an old car and had no prospects. This was the misstep. I had expected shame. I had expected apologies. I had misjudged my father's desperation. He looked at Leo, his fear of financial ruin warring with his humiliation. And the humiliation won. His face darkened. This is a deception. He suddenly snarled, his voice low. This is a trick. You knew all along he was worth this. And you sat there. You let us. You let us treat you like. You deliberately hid this. Leo, you came into my home. You humiliated me. You're a liar. I stared at him. I had come here hoping. Foolishly. For an apology. For a sign of remorse. Instead, I got rage. He wasn't angry that he had been cruel. He was angry that he had been wrong. He was furious that he had misjudged the asset. You're right about one thing. Dad, I said, my voice trembling, but not with fear, with clarity. He did hide it, because he wanted to be valued for who he is, not what he has. He wanted to know if the people in his life were real. It was a test. And you just failed? Now, Clara, my father said, scrambling, realizing his mistake. We obviously misjudged the situation. Let's start fresh. We'll host a proper engagement party. Right here, no expense spared. I looked at Leo, and he gave me a small, sad nod. I stood up, placing my napkin on the table. That won't be necessary, I said. We're having our celebration next Saturday. At the gallery, with our friends, people who value us for who we are, not what we're worth. I picked up my purse. I didn't come here for your apologies. I didn't come here to change your minds. I came here so you would understand. In this room, what you lost with your judgment. You didn't just lose a potential business deal. You lost a daughter. Taking Leo's hand, I walked out of the Arista Club for the second and final time, leaving my parents and my sister alone in the bright, empty, sunlit room to contemplate the true cost of their values. We never did have that big party. We got married 2 months later. At City Hall. With our friends as witnesses. It was perfect. The money, of course, changed our lives. But it never changed Leo. He still drives the Subaru. It's astonishing how we allow people to define our worth. My parents spent their entire lives obsessed with price tags, convinced that money was the only measure of a person, and in the end, they were the only ones in that room who came out worthless. Thank you for being with us for this story. It's a powerful reminder that true value isn't in your bank account, your car, or your last name. It's in your character. It's in who you love, and how you love them. If this story resonated with you, please let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss a story.